Mr. Pollock is brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Mr. Bob Pollock, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Wonderful. What are the issues that we're dealing with right now in terms of our lawns and gardens, trees, and all of that good stuff? At this time of the year, I'm thinking particularly of pruning issues. Is it too late to be pruning dead stuff out of our trees and things?
No. Dead stuff we can do
anytime.
When it's dead, remove it.
But if we want to, for instance, make a plant smaller before it gets to the growing season next year, is it better to wait right before it blooms or do it now?
Well, it depends on the individual plant. And what our goals are for that plant. So if it's a spring flowering plant and we want to see it full of blooms, then we would want to limit. We can still do a little pruning now, just to touch things up. If you've kept it in good shape over time and periodically pruned it, then you won't have to do very much to it. You might only have to take a little branch here, a little branch there out, just to maybe open it up a little bit, let a little more light, let a little more air through it. Or as these plants grow, they'll get crossing over branches. They may lay over top of another branch, especially some of our multi-stem shrubs.
Okay.
They'll tend to get pretty bushy, and depending on how you've pruned them, if you've sheared them, then they're more likely to have, it'll just be a mass of sticks there at the end.
Yeah.
Very tight.
I have one like that.
And so you can go in there with hand shears and just do a little bit of pruning just to open up some spots, to let some light in. Because oftentimes what will happen when we start shearing, then that shearing process tells the plant to grow more stems, which it does, and then it makes that kind of wall of foliage or just wall of sticks there right at that surface. So it's very dense, and that shades the interior part of the plant. So then that whole interior part is too shaded to grow leaves anymore.
Okay.
So you just have this thin layer of leaves the whole way on that outer part of the plant, whereas if we would have opened it up a little more, kept it a little more open over time, not sheared it, just hand pruned out branches, then that plant would have foliage farther back in the plant. The plant may look a little better. Of course, with hedges, and you can even do that with hedges, though, too.
Yeah.
Just to keep a thicker layer of foliage there, which can help you out down the road sometimes if something happens or a branch dies and you open up a big hole in there. By keeping more foliage there, then that allows you to cover that up, or another part of that plant to grow to cover that hole up.
Yeah. But in terms of plants that we just want to cut them off completely and make them smaller, shorten them, make them less intrusive. A lot
less
of them
wide, less tall.
Yeah, a lot of them have formed their buds already for next year, so we don't want to trim those back.
Right. And again, you can still do that selectively. You can still take a multi-stem shrub right now and cut the oldest canes out of it. You might take one or two that are the biggest, thickest at the base, cut them off at the base, because then that will tidy up that plant. It'll shorten it, because most likely those stems have been there for years. And so taking that out lets that newer, younger foliage an opportunity to grow. But it also pretty much keeps the form of that plant, the natural form of it, as long as we haven't been shearing it. So it's probably going to be more of a rounded over plant.
Yeah.
But that will shorten the height by taking one or two of those oldest stems out, and still maintain the kind of natural shape and form of the plant, rather than just lopping it off.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get a caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
What
morning.
can we do for you today?
I have a question. I wanted to know if poison ivy this time of year, I know in the summer, of course, you can't touch the oil. Is this a concern now?
Inside the woody part of the plant, yes.
So we can't just go in and pull it.
Well,
and you'll get poison ivy if you touch touch the plant?
So I would wear rubber gloves.
Okay.
And you can rogue it out, pull it, and kind of grub it out of the ground. So you can do that now. Just don't.
Okay.
Yeah, but just wear protective gloves, clothing, so that you don't get the oils on you.
And the rubber gloves
Okay.
would not be porous,
Correct.
so it's not going to get through
Right.
the material.
That's right.
Okay, rubber gloves.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Because any time
You're
of
welcome.
any time of the year, so it's a little easier when the leaves are on the plant. But even the woody parts and people. The other thing is too, when that stuff gets burnt,
Oh yeah, the smoke will get you.
the smoke will get you. So just the woody parts of that plant burning, and then the oils volatilize, get in the air, and you can breathe that in and internally get poison ivy, which
Youchie.
can be very, very bad.
Have you ever gotten that caller? Have you ever done that?
No.
Good for you.
So
No, we've never burnt it before because we knew somebody that did that, and they ended up getting it in their throat.
yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so we know not to do that.
So that just compost it and
Then you're done.
let it alone.
Then you're done. Thank you
All
for
right,
calling.
thank you.
You're
Bye
welcome.
now. There you go. That's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah, so those oils are always in that plant, all parts of the plant. So we always have to use caution.
Yeah.
Of course, there's some people that
They don't get it.
they don't get a reaction to it, so they're fine. Get them. In fact, they won't need gloves to rogue that out.
Have
If
them
you-
come in and do it.
That's right.
I used to be that way, and
Really?
and it's weird that you develop it at the age of 30 was the first time I ever got poison ivy,
Wow.
and that was after being around it with my dad and I. We would go out and we would saw logs all summer long and chop wood, and so I was all around poison ivy all the time. Never got it until I got to be the age of 30.
I've always been highly sensitive to it.
Have you really?
Yeah. I really got to watch.
Now, see, I'm scratching now. Why did she call? I'm all itchy. It is Indiana in the morning
You might have some other problem.
here at WCC. Yes. All right. We talked last week about indoor plants, but rather than talk about that, now we've got another caller. How about
Okay,
that for
let's do that.
adaptability? Good morning.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, good morning.
Is there value to tilling your garden now and then let it fallow over the winter?
Yes, there is. And of course, there's pros and cons to that. If you're in a site that is highly unlikely to have any erosion over the winter, then it's easier to do that because the soil will stay in place. If you're trying to plant your garden as early as possible in the spring, you can hedge your bets by tilling it now so that you have that all worked up. Now, granted, over the winter, depending on the rainfall and snowfall we get, that can get packed down, but still, fall plowing can make it, or tilling of that soil in the fall can make it much easier to get started and plant your early crops as early as possible, even when it might be a little bit too wet in the spring to rototill it again. That soil's still loosened up that you might be able to get in there and by hand plant some plants. Or some seeds that otherwise you'd just have to wait till it dried up enough to till it. So there's.
Thanks a lot, Bob.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So there's definite advantages to that. And sometimes, if we're working in organic matter, we want to get that worked in the fall so it has all winter. Of course, not a lot's going to happen over winter, but you still get freezing and thawing, which is easier. That movement of the freezing, thawing activity is easier, and you have a lot more movement when the soil's loose and worked up versus compacted as well.
I only have a couple of moments left, but on that topic, if the garden, since you took it, cleaned it out and got all the plants out of it, and it's been laying there since then, if it's been overrun by weeds, that patch of ground since that time, is
Just highly likely, huh?
is tilling it in a good idea, a bad idea, or it doesn't really matter?
Well, yes, because some of the summer annuals, winter annuals, they may have germinated already. You may have had some perennials in there that have come back up. So knocking those off again, if the weather doesn't do that for you sometime. But some of those winter annuals, they'll live right through that. So the chickweed and things like that that'll come in, doing a real light tilling of that and knocking those off will stop their life cycle because they'll just kind of hang there over the winter, and then in early spring they'll go to seed, and you'll get more seed from that. So stopping that process is helpful.
He is Bob Pollock, and it is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, AM 1160 and 101.1 FM.